Hello and welcome. This is Direct Talk. On today's session, we are joined by Nicolas Olivier. He is head for ICRC subdelegation in Mekelle. Nicolas, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, let's start with our first question. In his last interview with Tigrai television, ICRC Ethiopia spokesperson Judy Finoui stated that there was no access to areas where active battles were taking place. And promised that there will be an immediate response to those areas after the signing of a peace deal. So tell us about your engagements in these areas after the signing of the Pretoria Agreement.
Thank you very much. We are, after the peace deal, we can really see a difference in terms of access. We have in the areas where the subdelegation of Mekelle is active, we have had a good access thanks to our constant dialogue and close relationship with the authorities of Tigray. Therefore, whether it was after the battles or recently after the peace deal, we were able to provide support to the war wounded, whether it's military or civilians. When it comes to our activities here in Mekelle subdelegation, we provided what we call war wounded kits, which are kits that enable hospitals to take care of the war wounded. We provided enough to treat from 10,000 to 20,000 war wounded. We, of course, provided support to the hospitals treating them. So, for example, Awash Hospital here in Mekelle, also the hospital in Shire. But just to give an example of a place where there was a fierce battle, Yechila. This is a place that we have been accessing. We are actually there now, and we are carrying out activities to rehabilitate the hospital there. Also to support the team there, the medical team with medicine, but also, water provision for the hospital. I'm talking about Yechila because for the ICRC, this type of place where you had fierce battle, where you had a lot of, unfortunately, fighters who were killed on both sides, but also where the civilian population suffered a lot. This is really the type of place where the ICRC sees as its priority, because it's difficult to access, including geographically. There are not many humanitarian actors there. And it's a type of place that, regardless of the war, there are some challenges linked to poverty, linked to climate change. And this is really the type of place where the ICRC, wants to focus in Tigray, but in general in Ethiopia and beyond globally. So in terms of our strategic approach of the Mekelle subdelegation, that's what we are focusing on. To answer your question.
Okay. I have also learned that ICRC supports 27 health centers in Tigray.
Yes.
Does ICRC have any plans to expand this support, given the situation, the horrific medical situation in Tigray?
Absolutely. So actually, I'm happy to tell you that we support 29 health facilities. We've recently started to support 2 new health facilities in western Tigray. So absolutely, this is our big focus. It has been our focus since the beginning of the war. We have focused on providing medical equipment, but not just that. We've also focused on providing food to the patients, but also to the staff, the health staff. Why? Because in order to save lives, people need to be able to function. And since there were the restrictions on the services, including the salaries, health staff had a lot of difficulties to work. And if they were hungry, how could they take care of the patients? So this was a way that we found to really enable the health staff to work and to save lives. So we really focused all our attention when it came to also the assistance that we were bringing in to Tigray, to put priority on these health facilities, these 29 health facilities, and also not just in terms of medical equipment, but also in terms of the functioning of these health facilities. And for the food, actually, we didn't just provide to primary health centers and hospitals. We also provided to safe houses. We also provided to orthopedic center. So all in all, we covered 55 places, which all in all covered for 60,000 people. So we provided food to 60,000 patients and staff. And we believe that that's what made a difference, because we enabled the Tigrayan health staff to do their jobs. And I think I take this opportunity to really congratulate them, because it's amazing the resilience that they had, the conditions in which they worked, and despite that, they never gave up. And we're very proud that we were happy to help them save lives.
Okay. Nice. Let me proceed to my next question. ICRC works based on Geneva Convention,
Yes.
right? So one of its missions is to promote the respect of international humanitarian law. What were the activities carried out by your office to protect civilians in the conflict in Tigray?
Well, I would say it's twofold. First of all, everywhere in the world, including in Ethiopia, including in Tigray, the ICRC engages with the weapon bearers, with the armed groups, whether it's from the government, whether it's non-state armed groups, also with the police, security forces. And we engage with them by providing them with trainings on the rules of war. IHL, International Humanitarian Law, Geneva Convention, are the rules of war. And the reason why they were created is to put a minimum of humanity in war. So we do that on a regular basis. Of course, as you can imagine, this is something that we can do more in peacetime rather than in war, and that's why we call it prevention. And we do that by training these, as I mentioned, military or other weapon bearers about international humanitarian law. We also, for example, the police and security forces, or for the ones who maintain order, we also provide human rights training. So that's one side, and then the other side, which is equally important, is the dialogue on protection. So during these trainings, but also every time we meet a weapon bearer in the field, we engage in a dialogue with them so that they can uphold their responsibilities pertaining to international humanitarian law. So these are, I would say, quite frank exchanges that we will have about the behavior that they should have when they are fighting. So that means how they treat the civilian population, what are the, basically the no-go areas. So, for example, sexual violence is one that is a very important one, obviously. How to treat prisoners of war. And as you know, I take the opportunity also to mention that the ICRC visits detainees, prisoners of war. Here in Mekelle, there was a lot of these prisoners. There still are, less now, but we reached a point where we had more than 10,000 up to 13,000 prisoners of war and detainees in Mekelle Central Prison. And the ICRC played a role in assisting the prison with food, with medicine, with firewood, in order also to ensure that they were treated according to the Geneva Conventions. Currently, there are still prisoners there, and the ICRC continues to visit them and will continue to do so as long as they are there.
But civilians, including humanitarian workers, were killed in the conflict in Ethiopia. So what was the response by ICRC to this incident?
Well, of course, we were extremely, we were very sad. We expressed very clearly that humanitarian workers and actually all health workers and Red Cross workers and humanitarians in general are not a target. So this is something that is part of the international humanitarian law. So of course we were very concerned about these tragic events, and we of course voiced it very clearly. That this is something that should never happen, because it's very clear in the Geneva Conventions that humanitarian workers should not be targeted, since their role is purely to help the population, and they are not part of the fighting. So we were very clear about that.
So given this massive destruction, sexual violence and war crimes that have taken place in the conflict, do you think ICRC failed in Ethiopia?
Do you think?
Do you think ICRC failed in Ethiopia?
No,
you told me that this prevention, so...
Yeah. I don't think we failed because there's also, in wars, there's what you see and there's what you don't see. And for example, all the, for example, the lives of the prisoners of war that we saved, all the lives of the war wounded that we saved, all the times that you had an ambulance that could pass by a checkpoint because the weapon bearers at the checkpoints, they knew about international humanitarian law, they knew about the ICRC, they knew about the Red Cross. These things happened. There are also a lot of people that did not get killed, did not get wounded, did not get raped because they were trained about international humanitarian law. So I don't think we failed. It's very, in every war it's very difficult to quantify and to qualify. But one very interesting thing that I can tell you is that every time I meet a weapon bearer in the field, and I've arrived here now since 2 months, whether it's from the Ethiopian side, whether it's from the Tigray side, And whether it's elsewhere in Ethiopia, most of them know about the ICRC, know about IHL, have received a training. And this, I think, is very positive because it shows that no matter the side, everybody, has heard about the ICRC and knows about the IHL. And this shows also, I think, the universality of the international humanitarian law, and also reinforces the fact that the ICRC in Ethiopia is perceived as a neutral, independent, and impartial humanitarian actor. And I think that that's why we are working in Tigray. We are continuing to work, and not just in Tigray. Everywhere in Ethiopia, we have 4 other sub-delegations in Ethiopia. We are working, and I think that's because we are accepted on all sides, and in the end, it makes a difference. It makes a difference.
Do you have anything that you planned so that you can improve the awareness in international humanitarian law and human rights law in Ethiopia?
Yes, so definitely. I mean, I think now with, for example, in Tigray with the peace agreement, I think, as I told you, these prevention activities, it's better to do them when the guns are silent. And I think here we have a huge opportunity to do that. We used to do it, and we will do it again. But I know that my colleagues, for example, in Addis and in other places in Ethiopia where we are working, we are doing it constantly. So we are planning, for example, when it comes to Mekelle and our area of responsibility in Tigray, we are planning to carry out trainings towards armed carriers. This will be done, of course, in the current of the year, and this is definitely part of our plans. But in addition to these trainings, every time we have a team that goes to the field, and I can tell you that we are going a lot to the field, and we are reaching also areas that were previously not accessible, especially after the peace agreement. Every day we engage with the people on the ground, whether they are military, whether they're civilians, and we talk about the international humanitarian law, about human rights. And I think that this constant dialogue in the end, at all the levels, because it's at field level, it's at higher up official levels, it's at civil society level, it's at academic level. These exchanges make it that, first of all, people know about it, people understand about it, and in the end, the most important thing for the ICRC in general is how can we change the behaviors? Because it's that in the end is, we notice, that makes the biggest impact. If everybody behaves with a minimum of humanity, that's how you can also ensure that wars will be less inhumane.
All right. Let me proceed to my last question. So ICRC's President Mariana Spoliaric is now in Ethiopia for a 2 days visit to discuss the humanitarian operations in Ethiopia. So what can we expect from her visit?
Well, actually, just to let you know that she came to Ethiopia. She left this morning, and her visit went very well. She was able to meet with the Deputy Prime Minister of Ethiopia, with the President of Ethiopia, with the Minister of Health of Ethiopia, including also the Ethiopian Red Cross Society. She was also able to have exchanges with Tigrayan authorities. And I think she really was able to understand the situation in Ethiopia, understand the humanitarian needs, She really, I think, was able also to, in her exchanges with the higher authority, also raise issues that are important for the ICRC, and through this visit also reaffirm that the ICRC is scaling up its activities. So we've been doing a lot. We wanted to do more, but we will do more. And this is really, I think, something that she was able to convey. I think it is also something that she will take back with her when she leaves Ethiopia. I think she will be very well equipped to discuss this, the issues in Ethiopia, with other world leaders. And I just want to highlight as well that she's a new president. She took office a few months back, but she's been, last year she went to Mali, she went to Ukraine. This year she's been to Russia, and this is actually her fourth international trip. So I really think that she will have the realities of the humanitarian situation of Ethiopia and of course of Tigray on her mind. And she has told us as well that she really looks forward to coming back and to visiting, of course, Tigray at some stage. So really, I would say it was a very good visit where she understood the humanitarian challenges, and she will advocate to enable the ICRC to do more in Ethiopia and of course in Tigray.
Nicolas, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Okay, our viewers, this was all for today's Dialogue Talk. Until next session, bye-bye.